Bum, 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 bum. How's it going, everyone? Hope you're having a good day. Checking out our Patreon quick to see if we had any questions for this week. Technically, I didn't put up a new Q&A post for this week on our Patreon because we had, I think, an extra question from last week's that I wanted to get answered. And I think the question is technically already answered itself. But Zach on our Patreon did ask if the Smash Limited Edition is coming to America. And the answer is, yeah, the Smash Limited Edition is coming to America in its own type of bundle. Not the same bundle you're getting over in the UK, where you were getting, the Smash GameCube controller and the adapter for GameCube controllers. Instead, here we're getting the Pro controller, that flashy brand new Smash Pro controller, and like a steel art book thing. So kind of a really cool, it's a really neat special edition thing. It's been sold out. Best Buy was the only place I remember seeing pre-orders for it, and that was sold out there. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. So Zach over on Patreon, that's the answer to your question. Obviously, that question was answered before the stream even started by Nintendo, but at least I got it in for you in case you don't remember. So hey everyone, I'm Nathaniel Alvagents. This is our weekly Q&A. I know sometimes we have bonus Q&As and extra talk times, but this is actually our scheduled one, our one that we do Wednesdays during the day, every Wednesday. Usually it happens an hour earlier than this, but you know, I don't really have a good excuse. I got caught up watching YouTube videos, if I'm being completely honest. I was doing some other things as well. Then all of a sudden I looked up and I'm like, oh, it's 3 o'clock. Whoops, should have started this an hour ago. So let me first off give a shout out to everyone who's watching right now, who has at least commented, because I obviously can't see all 12 plus people that are currently watching unless they've commented. So Jimmy Locano, welcome. Daniel Thompson, Raymond Legends, Think Cap, and Big Tasty. How is it going? Raymond Legends asks, who has school tomorrow? Not me. My kids start next week Tuesday, right after Labor Day. So, and the first day is really easy anyways, to be honest. Like, the first week of school usually isn't that bad. College, you can get hit hard in college instantly, but usually the first day, even in college, isn't too bad from my memory. So let's see here. Did someone ask, Red Steel 3 or Conduit 3? Why not both? Why not both? I would like to... I mean, Red Steel 2 was very, very good. And because of how bad the first Red Steel was, I don't think a lot of people gave Red Steel 2 a chance. But Red Steel 2 was really good. Obviously, the Conduit 1 and 2, great games. I would like to see the Conduit come back for a 3rd edition. I would love to see, a Red Steel 3. So, like, if you're asking either or, I think Red Steel 3 is a more unique game that stands out a bit more. So I would probably go Red Steel 3. Get Ubisoft on that. And if it's Conduit, well, yeah, I don't know. I want them both. So, let me see. Big Taste says, how you doing, Nate? Nice to hear from you today. I am doing all right. I got a lot of good sleep last night. I don't know if you guys know. After our live stream yesterday of the Nintendo Direct, obviously you guys, not Nintendo Direct, sorry, Nindy Showcase, I think it was called. After that was over, you might have noticed there were no other videos that came out yesterday. You might have also noticed that I didn't do any live streams, and you might have noticed that if you do follow us on Facebook, that I didn't update our Facebook page. If you follow Zelda Informer on Facebook, which is one of my other jobs, I didn't update that. I basically took Tuesday off. Outside of the hour I live streamed for the Nindy Showcase, I took Tuesday off. Big reason was because I had my kids all day, and then when I was going to do some work at night, by the time my kids were asleep by 8 p.m. Central, I was barely keeping my eyes open. It was not, I didn't get a lot of good sleep the night before, and I decided that I would just take the L on that, and even though it affects my income and it affects everything else, and I really couldn't afford to take a day off yesterday, I said, screw it. Sometimes you got to put your health before anything else. Because honestly, if I had pushed hard and worked last night and got some stuff done, I would just be suffering even more today and get even less stuff done. It all just stacks up, and it leads to you getting YouTube burnout, which I don't want to experience YouTube burnout. That would suck. I have so much of my life and my time and everything invested into this YouTube channel. The last thing I do is want to get burned out because I'm not allowing myself to even get proper sleep. So I slept, and here we are today, and I am feeling almost 1,000% better. Need a little caffeine kick. That's only because been again entertaining my kids all day, but for the most part, it's 3 p.m. Central, and I'm doing great. This is the best I have felt in like a week in terms of like just physically, because I actually got good sleep. It's a rarity in my house to get good sleep, not just because of this job, but because of my kids waking up in the middle of the night and blah blah blah. So let's see here. Daniel Thompson is a new kitten. Nice, man. Who's buying Spider-Man Day 1? Not me. I don't own a PlayStation 4, to be fair, or I probably would. If I could afford it. Again, it's always if I can afford it, I'll get it. Right now, I don't have any of my Switch physical games except Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. So on my list right now, before I buy anything else, is slowly rebuying my physical library of games. Not sure when I can start doing that, but hopefully soon. I should probably start scouring some websites for some used copies that look like the boxes are in good condition. I really should do that. I think I can get a lot of my games that I had from last year, get those back for under $30 if I go to the right places for used copies. The ones that are from this year, maybe around 40. I'm just gonna have to shop around. Craigslist, try to see what I can do. Maybe eBay it up if I need to. Anyways. Thoughts on the... Okay, so Dank Meme Center says... or Centra? says, thoughts on the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Pro Controller. That thing looks sick. I don't even care if you're not a big Smash Bros. Fan. The color scheme, the white nubs, the white ends on it with the Smash logo with the white and black, how well the white and black obviously looks. It's white and black. Of course it looks good. It looks good. I need to get it. I need a new Pro Controller anyways. I just need a Pro Controller because at this point I'm not even going to say I have a Pro Controller because it's broken and missing and lost and I can't find it. So screw it. I just need a Pro Controller. And I can't afford one right now. I can't afford anything. But by the time Smash comes out, maybe I'll have some extra money. The big thing right now that's going to be holding back me really expanding my gaming collection and expanding my accessory collection or anything like that is that me and my fiance are currently saving up to go on a vacation in January. A much needed vacation where we're going to go to like Vegas or something for a week. We're trying to save up to have a few $1,000s for that trip. It's the actual, plane tickets and the hotel are actually really dirt cheap. It's like under $600 for both of us to go for those purposes. But we want to make sure we have all the money we could possibly want for anything, whether it's the adult entertainment, like, obviously gambling a little bit, playing some slots or whatever. Obviously, we want to go to a lot of shows, participate in a lot of activities, and all of that just are additional additive costs. Plus, we want to eat, and not just eat at like dives. We want to eat at some nice restaurants. Again, it's a week to ourselves without our kids that we're planning. So saving up for that as well, as best as we can, obviously. Because, it doesn't always work out perfectly. But, yeah, that's another thing that's going to affect how many games I can buy. Because a lot of my extra money needs to be set aside. Anyways. Don't worry, I'll still be picking up Smash and Pokemon. Like, those are must-gets. But, I mean, that's a drop in the bucket compared to what we're going to be saving up. So, yeah. Let's see here. Big Tasty says, how do you feel the Switch compares to last-gen hardware such as the PlayStation and Xbox 360 in terms of power comparison? Why are you asking that question? And I say that because it's more powerful by a pretty decent margin. The Wii U was more powerful in some aspects and a little bit behind in others. The Switch across the board is more powerful than an Xbox 360 and a PlayStation 3 on their best days. Even overclocked, the Switch is more powerful. So if you want me to rank them, I mean, it obviously goes like like Xbox 360, PlayStation 3. Wii U slightly above PlayStation 3, although some things are a little weaker. Overall, it could output a little bit better if you utilize it best. So it would be like Xbox 360, PlayStation 3. I mean, they're really close. And then you have the Wii U, which is like practically hugging the PlayStation 3. And then you have like the Switch right here. Then you have PlayStation 4 and Xbox One like here. So that's kind of the way it is right now. And not like right here in every aspect. Again, the Switch actually has some things it does a little better, but overall, in terms of the power it can output, the graphical fidelity you're going to see, that's kind of about where it's at. So Switch is a decent margin ahead of PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. It's just not like that massive leap to play. Like the leap between PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 is like this. Like it's huge. It's a big leap. But the Switch is somewhere in the middle there. So let's see here. Andrew Farrow says, what HD remakes would you like to see on Switch? I would love to see Mario Sunshine remastered. I talked about this a little bit before. Metroid Prime Trilogy remastered. Heck yes. Pretty much anything from the Wii and GameCube library remastered into HD is a big, big yes for me. I don't care what the game is. Bring it over. I'm happy. Mario Galaxy 1 and 2. Let's go. I don't think some specific to the GameCube. I was going to say Twilight Princess for a second, but we got Twilight Princess already in HD. Just needs to be brought to Switch. God, I'm trying to think. GameCube era had a lot of great games. Why can I not think of any of them? Oh, I mean Luigi's Mansion. I know it's going to 3DS, but I want it on Switch. Anyways, I don't know. I'm having a hard time. I don't know why I'm drawing such a blank. I'm trying to remember the games I played a lot on GameCube were games that I don't think a lot of other people. I played a lot of Prince of Persia as an example on GameCube. I didn't play a ton of Nintendo games, oddly enough. I mean, I know Sunshine and other stuff was on there, but I didn't play a lot of those. I played a lot of third-party games on my GameCube. I don't know. That was just what I did back then during that short period of my life when I was transitioning. Actually, I think I was mostly in high school. Yeah. Graduated in 2005. So, yeah, I was mostly in high school. So, I was kind of in that let's play a lot of Madden, let's play a lot of Call of Duty stage. With obviously some Zelda stuff in there and all that. Let's see here. Zombie U was on Wii U, and yeah, it's just called Zombie on the other platforms. But yeah, I'd like to see that come over. Yeah, Burnout sucks. Burnout does suck. I have not experienced it yet, but I had a feeling that if I forced myself to work when I wasn't feeling 100% into it, just to get some videos out, just to get some stuff done, then I came back today almost just as tired as I felt last night, but was like that all day today. And I'm forcing myself to do videos, and then it just becomes this cycle where you're forcing yourself to put the content out because you need to make the money, and you have content you want to make, but you're not doing it in the right state of mind. And next thing you know, you get like 2 weeks from now, and I'm making a video about how I am quitting YouTube because I need another job, not just for money, but because this job's driving me insane. And I don't want to get to that burnout phase where you're just not really enjoying the work. You're just doing it to do it. And yes, I have this thing in my mind where I need to do it because it's a big part of my income. No, YouTube is not my only source of revenue, but it's a big part of my source of revenue. And I don't want to lose that revenue, but I don't want to do it at the sake of me not getting sleep. And I wasn't even tired because of YouTube in the first place. It wasn't YouTube's fault that I was exhausted last night at all. So, like, it's not even that YouTube's getting me to that state, but if I force myself to work during periods like that, then it starts to stack up. So I'm glad I took the rest, even if I had to take that L on making money yesterday. I think we ended up making $7, which is nothing to make in a day. Like, that's less than an hour. That's less than minimum wage for 1 hour of work. So I did an hour live stream yesterday, and I made less than minimum wage for the day. So it's life. It happens. Let's see here. Because I didn't get to do any of my other jobs yesterday either. That's what also kind of sucks. It's not just what I lost on YouTube. I didn't make anything anywhere else either. Ugh, not good. Big Tasty says, how would you feel about the Switch getting some of the bigger AAA games from last gen, since it appears that hardware's easier to port on PlayStation 4 and the new Xbox? Yes, 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 yes. We've basically been getting that stuff anyways. I would like to see more of it. There's no reason for last-gen games on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 to not get a second life, or a third life, as it might be, on Switch. They've already brought a lot of these games to Xbox One and PlayStation 4. Why not also bring them to Switch? I know we've gotten some of them, with the Skyrim, and LA Noire standing out. And now we're getting Diablo 3, which, I guess you can call that last gen because it was 2012 before the new gen systems came out. So, yeah, I think yes, definitely. It makes a lot of sense. A lot of people who own Switch might have never played those games, or if they have, they might want them in a portable form. That's another big thing, is having it portably. I think a lot of people are going to end up picking Diablo 3 up just to play it on the go, play it anywhere, play it on their planes. Like, why not? It's a RPG game that just makes a lot of sense to do that. So yeah, I think, yeah, I would like to see a lot of. I know the big thing is obviously ports. All we're getting is ports, and that really bugs some people. I think there's a lot of value in ports, and they obviously are coming because they continue to sell. But yeah, we need a balance. I don't think, I mean, Switch can survive on indies, ports, and Nintendo games. It can. It can survive on that. But I think in an ideal world, we're getting that everything treatment, right? We're getting newer AAA games like Starlink Battle for Atlas. We're getting Nintendo games, which are a given. We're going to get them. We're getting the sweet, kick-ass indie games, which, again, we are getting. We just saw some yesterday. And on top of that, getting some of the other older content. Like, I would like a best of all worlds. Right now, it's kind of a best of some worlds, like best of the indie world, best of the Nintendo world, but not necessarily the best of everything else. So I would like to see all of the high-quality old ports, and I would like to see select, if not the entire, but at least select AAA games coming over. Like, I want to see Call of Duty come over. I mean, if they could put it on Wii U, that's, I mean, come on. Put it on Switch. I don't know. That's just my take on things. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Raymond Legend says, the Wii had more exclusives in the first 2 years than Switch. I wonder. I'm trying to remember let me look that up quick. It's probably true. The Wii was also more popular than Switch over the first 2 full years. You got to remember, we're not actually done with Switch. Like, Switch hasn't even been on the for 2 years. It will not officially be on the market for 2 years until March 3rd of 2019. So we have a long ways to go. I mean, we have what? That's almost half a year to go. We're only at around like 18 months. Like, we have like half a year to go to get more exclusive games. So already the Wii will have an advantage in having that additional 6 months. Wii exclusive games in, what was it? 2006 and 2007. Let's just see. This won't even be a comprehensive list, I'm sure. List of Wii exclusive titles. And I want to organize it by year. Oh, I can't. Of course, you can't organize it by year. Ugh. Well, let's just, I mean, there's so many. This isn't even that many exclusive games. This isn't even a good list. That was Wikipedia. Wikipedia doesn't have a good list? Oh, man. So I guess I don't know. I'd have to do more research. More research than I can pull off in a live stream. It'll probably take me an hour to compile a full Wii exclusive list. For Switch, I could probably do those all off the top of my head because it's so recent. Well, maybe I can't. There's going to be some indie games I'll probably miss in here. Let me just start. Let me bring up I'm going to actually look this up later. I might want to do a cross comparison of exclusive games. And I'll do them in tiers, of course. You'll have the Nintendo ones, then you'll have like the indie exclusives, and then you'll have like any sort of AAA exclusives. Like I would argue Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle is an example. That's from Ubisoft. So let's see here. Last year, obviously we had Nintendo, so we had Breath of the Wild. If I just get the big ones out of the way right away, you had ARMS, Splatoon 2, Super Mario Odyssey. Oh, what else last year? Xenoblade Chronicles 2 for a big one from Nintendo. I'm not gonna count Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I know it had new content. That was a port though. Those were the big ones from Nintendo last year, and then big ones from indie wise for exclusives. I know there was Golf Story, and that's the only one I can think of right now. Someone else in the comments, let me know if I'm missing one in there. I'm sure there's more than just Golf Story that was indie exclusive last year. Third party wise, that were exclusive. I'm not talking ports here, so we'll have to go with Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, and there's one more, Fire Emblem Warriors. That was a third party game, partnership with Nintendo. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 exclusives last year. Might be more, because I think there was more than just Golf Story that was exclusive last year, indie-wise. That's just the only one that's coming to my head. And then this year, we go back to the Nintendo list. We got Kirby Star Allies, Labo. I'm just going to count it as one thing. Labo. There's already 2 of them out. A third one coming. We'll just count it as one. For now, we can say it's 2, but whatever. Mario Tennis Aces. Third-party wise, obviously Octopath Traveler. Indie wise, I don't know if there's. Has there been an indie exclusive? There's been some. I don't think I own them though. Indie exclusives. So I mean, that's not that impressive a list. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, the kind of games on the list are impressive, but in total, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have 12 exclusives so far in 18 months. Let me see if you guys had anything else to add to that list. Oh, Snipper Clips. That's right. I'll throw that as a Nintendo game. They advertise it as one. You know what? Speaking of exclusives, technically, the Street Fighter 2 they did was an exclusive version of it. It was a Street Fighter 2 Ultimate or something. That was an exclusive version of Street Fighter 2 for Switch, so that would count. 1-2 Switch. Can't forget about 1-2 Switch. Yep, I knew I was forgetting. I had the one at launch too. I can't believe I forgot that. Bayonetta ports are not exclusive. Celeste is not exclusive. Sushi Striker. Yep, there we go. Technically, it's on putting that under Nintendo here. Technically, that's on 3DS, so it's not console exclusive, but it is Nintendo exclusive, so we'll count it. I already have Splatoon 2 on the list. Yeah, Metroid Prime 3, we didn't get that on Switch. Bayonetta 2 is a Wii U port. I'm not counting ports. We can argue Sushi Striker isn't a port because it released on 3DS and Switch same day, just like Breath of the Wild released on Switch and Wii U same day, so I'm counting Breath of the Wild for Switch, even though I know in the back of my mind it was ported over from Wii U, just like I know Sushi Striker was ported over from 3DS, but technically same day releases, we can count it for the platform. Let me see here. What else did you guys say? People want to. It's Brett Cummings. Here's the thing. Like when you argue Splatoon 2 is Splatoon 1 port with DLC, minus the DLC, Splatoon 2 has like 3 times the content of Splatoon 1. How much more content do you need? Like including exclusive modes and everything. How much more content do you need for Splatoon 2 to be considered a sequel and not a port? I'm just very curious. Like, how much more content do you honestly need for something to be a sequel? Because in an iterative series like Splatoon, obviously Splatoon and Splatoon 2 are going to feel the same gameplay-wise. Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3 are going to feel the same gameplay-wise. Just like Street Fighter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They all feel similar in many gameplay aspects. But what amount of content to you would make it no longer be a port? Like, because ultimately that's the difference between the games. It's not going to be a massive visual difference. It's going to be a massive content difference. And there's a ton of content in Splatoon 2 that isn't anywhere, like Splatoon 1 could only dream of having. So I'm very curious what would make it feel like it's not a sequel to you. Let me see here. See if there's any... Let me see here. Fire Emblem Warriors. Yep. I know. That's why I counted it on Switch, because it was day and date on both. So I counted that for third-party games. Okay, so I think that's it. Unless there's some indie games that I'm forgetting about. So in total, for the past 18 months of Switch, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So almost a game per month. And there's probably some indie games in there. So, I mean, that's not bad. I'd have to now get the Wii list of exclusive games. I'm gonna set this aside. I'll probably do a video on this later, comparing the first 18 months. I'm going to have a cutoff date for literally 18 months worth of it for each console, and then look at the dates of game releases and figure out. And then obviously we have to figure out, is it still considered an exclusive if like a Wii game is ported to something else? Is it still considered an exclusive? Do people really want to count Sushi Striker as exclusive if it's on 3DS? And then we'll probably do a comparison. Well, this is if you include all the things that people consider to be exclusive or day and date with another Nintendo platform. And then these are if you get rid of it's not on any other platform. which is really going to kill Wii U. We're going to kill Wii U big time since those games have been ported over. It's going to come down to, what is technically still exclusive. Then obviously there's always the, hey, we have a new Twitch Prime subscriber. Thank you so much. That's a balloon blow up right there. Gotcha over here. Aiden Smith 02. Thank you so much for that. Let me get your balloon for our giveaway. So this was, I don't know why I'm doing a capital A, but because I can. Aiden. Oh, of course I spelled Aiden wrong because I spelled it like my son's name. Aiden's Myth 02. And it's Twitch Prime. Aiden Smith 02, Twitch Prime. Thank you so much for entering our giveaway and supporting us over on Twitch. Speaking of Twitch, I should probably bring the Twitch chat up. I haven't been reading it for this Q&A, and that reminded me that I should. There we go. We actually have some people over here. Yeah, there you go. We'll leave it at that. I don't know if we actually had more exclusive than Switch did. I'll have to go back and count that list and answer that later, or make a video about how Switch compares to Wii U, and everything else through different lenses. What was exclusive at the time. Blah blah blah, all that stuff. Let me see here. Let me go over to Twitch quick and get a question out of the Twitch crowd. The guy who just Aiden's Myth 02 had a question. He says, would you prefer Nintendo to do what Sony and Microsoft do, only really announce games in 1 or 2 big blowouts every year, or have a series of smaller directs as they currently do? I mean, let's be honest. Has it felt like we've even had one big blowout this year? I'm serious. Has it felt like we've even had one? I'm not joking. Pokemon was announced on its own like it always is. We knew about Smash because they said it was coming. So what big blowouts are we talking about? This year has been a bad year for Nintendo Directs and Direct Minis and blah, 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 in terms of just new announcements. Dark Souls Remastered, I think, is the biggest. I'd argue Fortnite and Paladins are pretty big, too. I know they were leaked ahead of time, but still, I'll count those. That was part of the announcement. The whole reason they got leaked is there was an announcement coming. But ultimately, when it comes to Nintendo stuff, like exclusive games, there really hasn't been that many announced. There hasn't been that many released. And there hasn't been that many announcements and surprises. Octopath Traveler was announced last year. Mario Tennis Aces, I guess, was one. You can give them. Labo. So it's just not been that great of a year for that kind of stuff. So would I prefer them to keep doing what they're doing, or would I prefer them to have 2 big blowouts? I would just prefer them to have big announcements, period. If you look at last year, we knew about a lot of the games. I'll say that. A lot of the games last year we knew about before the Switch even came out, that those games were coming. So it didn't feel like we necessarily had a big blowout. That's the thing. It didn't feel like we had a big blowout last year for new announcements either. The difference being that it was kind of okay to forgive a lack of new announcements because of all of the games we already were getting that year, right? I just went over. Most of those games I listed came out last year, and last year had a huge bevy of big exclusive games coming out. So it didn't feel like they needed to hit us with a bunch of new announcements because of what we were already getting. But now we're here in this year, and we're still not getting those big new announcements in Nintendo Directs or any major event, which means 2019 better be a big deal, because they have a lot of stuff to talk about if they're not really bringing the big guns this year. Yes, Smash and Pokemon are big guns. Fire Emblem Three Houses is big gun. I understand all that, but they haven't had, like, we've known about Fire Emblem since before Switch came out. Fire Emblem 2019 or whatever. Or maybe that was an announcement last year. I don't know. We just need something. In terms of how I prefer them to do it, I don't know if there's a wrong or right way to do it. Like, the way Nintendo does it is fine. I don't think there's a big deal with it. I think it's the future of doing, game announcements and everything. But there's obviously something special to having PSX and E3 for Sony. I think the big difference with Sony and Microsoft is that they have third-party games coming to the platform, and third-party games are announced all year long. They're announced at Comic Cons. They're announced at PAX East and West. They're announced at Gamescom. They're announced at Tokyo Game Show. So even if, like as an example, we just got 44 minutes of Cyberpunk 2077 released yesterday. Like, so that wasn't a Microsoft and Sony thing. That was just them wanting to throw out gameplay to the world coming off of Gamescom. And that's the thing, like, Sony and Microsoft can do just two events because they have third parties doing everything else for them. Nintendo, unfortunately, doesn't have like a big game. Like, I'm not saying Cyberpunk 2077 isn't going to come to Switch. I'm also not going to say it is going to come to Switch. The only comments that really say anything about the potential of that game coming to Switch is that they said in an ideal world they want to bring it to Xbox Scorpio at the time and the Nintendo NX. They said that is like what they would like to do. Doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. And obviously they're now talking about Cyberpunk being an intergenerational game, meaning it's going to be on this gen's hardware and next gen's hardware. Does that still include Switch? Is Switch still in the back of their minds like a platform they want it to run on? I don't know. We just know they said at one point they wanted to be on Switch or NX at the time, and that was a long time ago. So who knows how their minds have changed since? Who knows if there's a new one coming? But yeah, I think Nintendo's approach is fine. They just have to actually have some content. I like separating out indies into their own thing. I think that's great to give them attention. I think we need more. We need more. We need more games for their, like this year, I probably would have rather had two big blowouts because they don't have enough content for more than two big blowouts. I think most years they have enough major content to have multiple blowouts a year. Right now, I think they have what? One, two... I think they have 3 major blowouts per year in terms of general directs, right? You have your spring/early summer general direct. Then you have E3. Then you have your fall/winter general direct. And then in between, they're throwing those direct minis and stuff like that. I'm all fine with that. I'm fine with their approach. They basically have 3 major blowouts a year and then a bunch of stuff in between for advertising purposes and all that for all the smaller games. So, I don't know. And yet, ironically, Dark Souls Remastered a remastered port, I guess, that was delayed, was one of the biggest announcements this year for Switch. Diablo 3 to me is obviously a huge announcement as well, but again, a port. Pokemon was obviously probably the biggest announcement this year overall, because we didn't know that we were getting this Pokemon game this year. We knew a new generation that we're getting next year was coming. We didn't know about this game until this year. Let's see, over on Twitch we also said, Go With The Craig says, so why is Yacht Club Games sitting on their yacht instead of publishing a physical copy of Shovel Knight for Switch? I don't think they're sitting on their yacht. There's a new Shovel Knight game coming, like in development right now, that we don't have a release date for. So I doubt they're sitting in their yacht. They probably don't even own a yacht. Go With The Craig says, how many first-party exclusives do you think Switch will have in the first half of 2019? I'm guessing 4 or 5. Either way, it's going to be more than the first half of this year. Well, the first half of this year ended in June. And by then, we had Kirby Star Allies for first-party-wise. We had Labo. And then we had Mario Tennis Aces. So we had 3. So that'd have to be more than 3 in 6 months. We know we're getting Fire Emblem 3 Houses. That's like a confirmed first half of 2019 game. So we know of one. It's a big one. I'm not a fan I don't know if I've ever been a fan of any of the names of the Fire Emblem games. So anyways, that's a big one. After that, I don't know. I'd say I'm hoping for 4 in 6 months, but that might be a little much because we only know about 1. But, yeah, I think 4 sounds about right to me. And we know, just like we know about 1 for the fall for sure. Like, is Yoshi going to be first half or second half? Or are we even still going to get Yoshi? I mean, there's so many unknowns right now about 2019. What is Bayonetta 3 2019? Is Metroid Prime 4 2019? We don't even know if those games are 2019. There's so many unknowns right now. What the hell is Retro Studios doing? Is it that Star Fox Racing game? Okay, cool. When the hell is that coming? There's so much we don't know. Let's see here. Sequel as a port argument is pointless. You could argue that any sequel in any series that isn't totally different from the last game is just a port. Yeah, maybe that's why they keep changing art styles in Zelda, even though the gameplay stayed mostly the same for all these years until Breath of the Wild, right? Because they wanted people to not argue it's just a port. So let's change the art style. So it's Dark Souls 2, just Dark Souls 1. It's Dark Souls 3, just Dark Souls 1. Anyways. I digress. All right, let's go back over to YouTube for some questions here. I know there's been a lot of questions over on YouTube we haven't got to yet. Fire Soul, MLG, I'll throw in his Major League Gamer aspect to it. He says, what's your thoughts on the whole Goku for Smash? Should a character like him get in, even though he didn't originate from a video game? I think it's interesting when we talk about TV characters or anime characters that end up having popular games, because obviously Dragon Ball games have been popular for a little bit. Now we have DBZ Fighters coming on Switch, and that's probably going to be decently popular as well. At least for a fighting game, it's popular. Whatever you would consider a niche version of a fighting game could be popular. Should we get them in? Even though it doesn't originate from a video game. I mean, I always lean towards the side of why not? Because you can argue that they are also popular as video game characters. But obviously, especially Goku himself is just such an iconic anime character at this point. If anyone was to get in, it would be Goku. One of the most successful anime adaptations to video games maybe ever done is the Dragon Ball series. Not just this, like other Dragon Ball games as well. I don't know. It feels weird. It feels like there's so much more video game stuff they need to do before they should consider someone like Goku. Does that make sense? Like, yeah, sure, they should probably do it someday, but there's a lot of other video games in video game history we need to get to before we worry about adding in a popular anime character that also happens to be in good video games. That's my take on it. So yes, someday. I don't think that day has arrived yet, and probably won't arrive for like 3 Smash games, assuming that Sakurai's around for 3 or more. I don't know if he will be, just in terms of like age and everything. Like, I don't know if he'll be alive for 3 more Smash games. And remember, Sakurai is not a spry 20-year-old anymore, guys. It's been a long time since those days. Let me see. M the Moon. Wow. M the Moon is salty. Salty. He says, so first you charge to play with you. What's next? Pay to ask questions during the Q&A. I mean, you can pay to ask questions during the Q&A, but all like super chatting or donating does when you ask your question is just put it to the top of the pile. Like right now, I'm really far behind the chat on YouTube, and if you don't have time and you want your question answered right away before you have to go, obviously super chatting and donating to get your question to the top of the pile is going to be the quickest and fastest way to do it. But I don't think I'd ever just ask or just answer answer donation questions ever in a Q&A, unless for some odd reason we get big enough and I have a Q&A session that is to the point where we're getting dozens and dozens and dozens of questions submitted through super chats and donations. Then it's going to feel like I'm only answering questions for super chats and donations. But that's because all those questions keep jumping to the top of the pile. I think what might be prudent in a situation like that is if we ever get to a point where that's all that's ever being answered because of it, that maybe I spend the first 15 minutes of every Q&A making sure I grab questions from the chat, and then spend the rest of the time answering all the super chat donation questions. But we haven't gotten to that point. I don't think we're going to get to that point for years. It'll be many years before I got to worry about that. As for charging to play with you, I don't charge all the time to play with me. Jeez, it's just Fortnite. We have to understand about Fortnite. And when I do a few times, by the way, it's very few times that I even am willing to play multiplayer Fortnite, duos and squads. It's because it's such a limited group. At most, 3 people can play with me. At most, 3 people can play with me. Think about that. Think about that. I have 40 viewers of this stream right now. I've had some Fortnite streams get up to 50, 60, 70 viewers. All of them want to play with me, but there's only 3 spots. And I don't have the time in my day to potentially cycle 70 people into that in one night. I don't stream long enough to do that. I need a way to reduce the numbers down of who's going to be able to play with me. And the easiest way to do it is to make it our patrons, like we did last time. We did patrons and what was it last time? Patrons and YouTube subscribers last time. Or not YouTube subs, YouTube sponsors or whatever they're called. So we did that last time. That really reduced it down. And then the people who were in that got to play with me for a good, healthy chunk of time and had a good time and got a lot of matches in. Or, have people super chat and donate to get in. And there might even be a time where I get too many of those to get enough matches in. And then I got to change things up again. Just like how Etika in his streams, he doesn't even have super chats and donations pop up in his stream video unless it happens to be over $20. Because he gets so many little ones that like having them up here would just spam the stream too much, and it would end up not being very entertaining to watch, if that makes sense. Not that he's not appreciative of all those. One time I would like to see him go through at the end of the stream like I do and just shout out all the people who super chatted and donated. I'm curious if it would take him like an hour to do that based on all the little donations he probably gets along the way. Maybe he doesn't get little donations anymore because he's been doing that for so long. I don't know. But, nah. I still play Splatoon 2 openly with everyone. I don't charge for entry into Splatoon 2 for a basic reason. I can get 9 people in per match. 9 people is a lot more than 3. So I'm able to cycle people in and out a lot quicker, and thus I don't really feel like I need any sort of gating for that. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe tournaments, they've always been open to the public. I've never made them private and made it so people had to pay to be in them. So yeah, this whole... whatever you're salty about with me charging for people to play Fortnite with me so I can limit the numbers down to something I can manage, do what you want at your own YouTube channel, man. I'm going to do what I want in mine. People don't have to pay at all, and then I'll just play solos all night. I'm not This is one thing that has to be clear to anyone that especially watches my content for free. I don't owe you guys anything in terms of like being obligated to do anything. This is my time. This is my life. This is what I'm choosing to do with my life. You guys can't make me do anything. So, like, even when I do the super chats and donations for this or that, like, no one can, like, when I do the super chats and donations to take shots, no one can actually make me take those shots, right? Like, I still control the amount of alcohol I consume. I cut myself off at times when it gets too much. So there's, yeah, it's, I mean, I feel like I owe people like our patrons that support us for the podcast. I feel like I owe them all the time. You know, that I owe them to get a podcast out every week because they paid, you know, good money for that. But it's also one of those things where we missed a podcast like 2-3 weeks ago because I was sick that week. And I'm like, you know what? My health is more important than trying to make sure I hit a deadline I had set for our patrons. Shout out to Corey. Give us $5 Canadian. Says, thanks, keep it up. So, yeah, it's just one of those. I'm always going to do what I want to do and make the content I want to make and do it the way I want to do it. And if you don't like it, then don't support what we do. Don't watch our content anymore. It's all anyone has to do is just watch our content. No, I'm not obligated to do anything for anyone here. Ever. You could give me $4,000. You can give me a $4,000 donation. It doesn't mean I'm obligated to do anything for that $4,000. I could quit YouTube that day. I'm not obligated to do anything. I do this because I love doing it and I want to continue to keep doing it. And no, a $4,000 donation isn't going to make me stop doing it. Although that might cover my vacation that me and my fiance are going to take in January. But that's happening anyways. So I don't know when. I mean, I don't know what. We haven't decided what week yet. I mean, obviously the sooner we decide and the sooner we buy the tickets, the better off we'll be in terms of pricing wise for the trip. Because the closer you get to when you want to fly out or when you want to book a hotel, the more expensive it gets. Especially for trips to Vegas, but that's all right. It'll be fun. All right. I already lost a bunch of the chat because I was so far behind it cut it off. Let me see if I can find it in the live viewer instead of over here in my thing. Because I want to make sure I get to the questions where people ping my name for sure. Okay, good. This one goes all the way back. Good. So I want to make sure I get everything in. So I got the Goku one. There we go. Kyle DeVurger says, what's your favorite Wii game? Probably Mario Galaxy 2. Yeah, I'm just going to stick with Mario Galaxy 2 because I can sit here and debate internally for a while if it's really Mario Galaxy 2 or not. But that's the one that pops out to me every time I think of Wii. Let's see here. Oh, Quantum got his 5-year-old brother set up with Breath of the Wild. He loves it. Nice. Yeah, dude, my 5-year-old son loves Breath of the Wild. He can't play it right now because I sold it, but when I buy it back, he really wants to get playing that again. Nate, you aren't quitting YouTube. Please don't. As I said, that's why I took the day off. I was so exhausted. Sometimes you need that mental break as much as you need a sleep break. Let me see here. ThinkCap says, do you think Dragon Quest 11 Switch ever happens in the West or at all? Yes. They have said it is, and they have said there has been a recent update to Unreal Engine 4 on Switch. That update has now given the Dragon Quest 11 team what they needed to continue porting the game. So, yes, it's going to happen. It's going to be a 2019 title, but we're going to get it. They are very dedicated to getting it over here. It's going to happen. It's just happening a lot later than people wanted because they were waiting on an update to Unreal Engine 4 that is now there. Oh, love what we do. Please go. Thanks, Corey. Let's see here. The Champion Morrowind. I'm not caught up to where I am over here. Okay. It says, do you remember when companies made special versions of their games for DS? What if that happens for Switch where the PlayStation 5 and Xbox 2 come? I mean, I'm not into that. I know companies did that. I didn't like it. It just felt like you're just playing a bastardized version of a game because, and not, I'm not talking about bastardized versions from FPS and visuals. You're just basically playing a different game. I didn't like that. I didn't like when they did that on DS. So, sorry, wasn't a fan of Grand Theft Auto DS. I'd rather just get the full game downgraded. Let me see here. Scrolling down. Question. All right. I think, okay, this one's caught up to where I am over here. So now I can switch back. And the big thing about me having to look at a different window for that chat was that Twitch chat was hidden. I want to make sure Twitch chat stays up since we have some people watching over there. Shadow King 1982 says, do you think it would have been possible for Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee given people an option between the Pokemon Go mechanics and the classic mechanics? No. I mean, hold on. Let me step the back. You just asked, is it possible? Sure, anything's possible. They could have done that. Do I think that would have been a good idea? No. I hate that idea. And I'm not just saying that because I love Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu as it is, but because if it was just an option, that means they're not fully dedicated to it, which means they're not doing it in the best way they can. And anytime you have optional control schemes or option, like this isn't even like a minor thing, right? The entire game is built around this. So you'd have to have an entire game built around completely different ways of tackling, capturing Pokemon and all this other management stuff, that it would ultimately lead to two entirely different experiences. They would basically be making two games in the same world. And you can argue they already do that. But yeah, I would not want them to do that. I'd rather them fully dedicate to this and do this right, right in whatever way they deem that to be, and then focus on that more traditional style in the next Pokemon game, which is not going to have the Pokemon Go mechanics in it. I was going to remember, there's a huge difference. There's a big difference in how everything's handled. A big difference in how Pokemon level based on the catching mechanics. And like it's way different. You literally would have to build two different games. Brendan Renshaw says, same people saying Splatoon 2 is a port are the ones that call Call of Duty a reskin every year, which I couldn't disagree more. Yeah, like it's not. Call of Duty is made with, like, what is it, 3 different teams? Is it 3 or 4? It's either 3 or 4 rotating teams that are always working on a new Call of Duty, and they don't really talk to each other, and that's why every game stands out on its own. Same is true with Assassin's Creed. It's made by, I think it's got 3 teams that are rotating with their releases. So people think, oh, it's only got 1 year of development. No, Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed both have like 3 or 4 years of development into every game. That's how they're able to stay, I was going to say, as well polished as they are. We all know the bugs that have been in both, but because they're still on those deadlines. That's why I appreciate that even though we're getting Assassin's Creed games in back-to-back years, that doesn't seem like that's going to be like it's not going back to being a yearly franchise. Like, we're not getting an Assassin's Creed next year, and they already told us that. And I think that's very good for them to take that time to make sure, it just so happened that extra year was for both of those games. Now they want extra year, because now the team making this made the last game and this game, the Assassin's Creed coming out this year, they want that extra year of development. Let's say, no one should be here. I thought I heard someone outside. It must have just been an animal. Say, no one should be here trying to get in, because Melody's not going with her other dad today. Okay. Let's see here. Why are Nintendo not talking about their online service, which is being charged for next month? Nintendo Prime, what do you think about this? They are going to talk about it next month. I bet you there'll be a Nintendo Direct before the online system comes out. They said online system's coming out in the second half, which you can read that as it's coming out the last week of the month. They're going to do some sort of Direct. I don't know if it's going to be their general fall Direct or if it's just going to be specific to to the online system, but they're going to have something come out. Do I think it's okay to wait that long? No, I do not. I think we should have known about this stuff at the latest this month, but what are you going to do? So would you call Smash Bros. Ultimate a port? A lot of people do. My initial reactions to the trailer, you can even go back on Twitter. I did not delete the tweet. My initial reactions to the trailer were that Super Smash Bros. Ultimate looks like a port. Because it did. Like, visually, it looked like you were just playing the Wii U game with new content. Then I played it and went hands-on at E3. As soon as I played it, it was very evident that the gameplay, obviously, being the same, it's Smash, but nothing really felt exactly the same. All of the characters I touched felt really tweaked. The worlds felt really tweaked. The visuals were even tweaked. Everything felt new when I played it at E3, and that's when my opinion changed. That this is no longer like, it might look like a port on the from afar, but then when you go hands on, it's like no, that's not a port. So no, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is not a port. They're not even using the same engine. I found out. Isn't that interesting? Like, for all the people who do think it's a port, like, they're not even using the Wii U engine. So if they built the game on a brand new engine, how is it porting over? Like, I guess maybe some of the assets, maybe some of the models were ported over, maybe, but that just happens. It's like saying, Call of Duty, perfectly skinned one gun, so they should just reskin that same gun the exact same way, all the way over from scratch, over different games that have that particular gun. Like, no, of course they're going to reuse the asset. Why wouldn't they? You already did the work for it. Why double your workload for no reason? Let's see here. The Champion Marlin says, do you remember when companies made... Oh, yeah, I already read that. Sorry. Scroll down here. Man. There it is. There's a little bunny in my window. You guys want to see him? I don't know if my camera's going to mess up. Yeah. I think my camera might mess up if I try showing it to you. Yeah, there's a little bunny up there. Hi, bunny. You hiding out? Yeah, now you ran away because you heard me. Though that explains what the noise was outside. There's a bunny outside my window. In my office. All right. Corey Bum says Sushi Strikers was early June. Yep. Oh, yeah. I said 3 games. That would be 4 games. I always forget about Sushi Strikers. I don't know why. It's really good. It's a really good game. It came out right before E3. That's probably why, because it came out right before E3, so then I forgot about it after playing games at E3. Quantum's working on a new setup. Nice. I know you're thinking about your new YouTube channel with live streams and stuff. What are my thoughts on the upcoming Nintendo Mobile Direct? The one tonight, isn't it specific for one company, though? If I remember right, the Direct that's happening tonight is just specific to the one company Nintendo's partnered for the one game. So it's essentially a specific game Direct. So I think that's cool. Unless I'm wrong. Let me double check. I'm pretty sure it was only for a specific game. Or a specific company. It wasn't like a general Mobile Direct. Where we could see Mario Kart Tour or something like that. Yeah, everything I'm reading on it just on a quick glance is just it's for the one company they partnered with that's bringing a game or two over for mobile that Nintendo's publishing. So it's just like any other individual game Direct. I mean, it'll be nice for that one game. What's interesting is I think this is their first individual mobile game Direct. That's interesting that it's for this company and not for one of their own games, but. It's probably a deal they were made when the partnership was made for promotion reasons that Nintendo would do a Direct for it. It's probably just part of the contract. MacMain. Etika is honestly obnoxious. He can be funny, but most of the time he's just rambling on about the same stuff and screaming. But that's what I find entertaining. That's the weird thing about Etika, right? Like, I don't watch Etika to see him play a game. I don't watch him for whatever. He's one of those weird streamers that I watch to see his random tangents about life and weird things, or like when he stands up and he's like, okay, so you take the D and you like do it all like just it's hilarious. And that's what I come to see his thoughts on things and stuff like that. He's one of the few YouTubers who like he got popular or is popular for his game streams, and I just don't really care about the games he's playing. It's the person. The person I find entertaining. And even when he's just rambling about random stuff, I enjoy the rambling. I'm a rambling man. You guys are watching a YouTuber who rambles all the time. You should know that by watching my content. You should know that by watching this live stream. How many times have I rambled off on something that wasn't 100% directed, related to the question? Let's see here. Do I know who Obi-Wan is? Yes, I know who Obi-Wan is. He was just streaming earlier today. Or is he still streaming? I can't remember. He was streaming Fortnite? Yeah, he's streaming Fortnite on Xbox, I think. Let's see here. $5 Canadian is like 10 cents American. Nah, it's like almost $3 American. It's not even it's not technically 2-to-1 exchange rate. But yeah, it's like a $3 US. I can tell you right away, it is. I can look at it in Streamlabs. It is actually it's even better exchange rate than I thought. It was $3.87 US is what he gave. That's actually a lot better exchange rate than I expected. Obi-Wan pays for you to play with him and takes way too long to get to the point in his videos. He uploads late on news and believes any leak. I don't know if he actually believes. He's posted so many leaks that I'm not sure he actually believes the leaks. I think he is just a hype machine. He likes to hype everything up. He likes to be hyped. He'd rather live in the world of hype than the world of reality. And that's fine for people to be like that. As for, you pay to play with him. You do pay to play with him. To be fair, every new sub he gets, he gives them an eShop gift card, which I think is really, really cool. I've thought about doing something similar, like, hey, when am I at a financial point where I can be like, hey, look, for every new YouTube sponsor or member we get, I'll give you guys a $5 eShop gift card. Like, basically that means your first month that you give me money, I'm giving that money right back to you, right? That's what it is. But the idea is that you're so appreciative of what you do and all the stuff that you stay on, and then over time that adds up and you end up with 200, 300, 400 of those subs, and suddenly you're getting a nice little chunk of change. That's the idea anyways. And it's even funny because technically YouTube takes a cut of that, so when he gives you that $5 back, he's actually paying you more than he gets in for your initial sub. It's a really cool idea. I don't know that I'm financially stable enough to be able to do something like that, but it's cool that he is. And it's obviously working for him on his channel with, what, 60,000 subs? 50,000? I don't know, something like that. I know he's bigger than me. Nintendo time. What are your opinions on the up? Oh, I already read that. Sorry. That was a question asked by somebody else earlier. Corey says the AAA titles getting starter editions releasing September 20th seems like it's likely date for the Switch Online service. Maybe. Who knows? Anything that we think is likely for anything Nintendo ends up not happening. It's easy to say likely for anything. I've said likely for things too, and then it's like, yeah, that's like my logic coming in. Nintendo's logic is we're going to release things when we damn well feel like it. Sometimes it doesn't even seem like they have any logic attached. Let's see here. They had an Animal... Oh, they did have an Animal Crossing Mobile Direct. I think you're right. I remember watching that. Yep. So I guess they've done it before. They're just making it... It'll be more common. We'll get little mini directs like that for individual mobile games that they think are a big deal. Fire Emblem Heroes and... Yeah, see? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. They're already doing it. So I guess it's not as unusual as I thought. Shadow King 1982 says, with the success of Octopath Traveler, do you think there's a chance of older Square Enix titles coming to Switch, like Final Fantasy 1 through 6, Star Ocean 1 and 2? Maybe. I don't know that Square Enix is necessarily interested in that. I think what Octopath Traveler told them is, we need to bring more games to Switch. I think that's out. That like whatever those games are, they need to bring more games to Switch. I think Octopath Traveler really opened their eyes and because before Octopath Traveler came out, remember they said we will support Switch with exclusive titles, basically, like with our B tier of exclusive titles. And then the first big game they bring over from that, the exclusive Octopath Traveler, blows up. And I bet you that got a lot of people at Square Enix going, whoa, maybe we should rethink this. Maybe it shouldn't just be those kind of games. Because if that kind of game did that, that could build an audience for our games that could make people want to buy Kingdom Hearts 3 or something like that. I think the more big picture Square is starting to rethink their approach to the Switch because the success is so unprecedented. When you see how fast it sold out, it's like, yeah, they did not expect this. Like, they had no idea that Switch owners were going to want Square Enix content that badly. So I think they're rethinking their whole strategy. Don't be surprised if the next Final Fantasy game that comes out also happens to be coming to Switch. I think that's a big change that might be being talked about inside the company is, yeah, we can get Final Fantasy 15, but forget about that. The next Final Fantasy 16, or whatever they call it. After Octopath Traveler, they might be like, we gotta try to make this thing run on Switch day one. Day one's the big thing. If it's gonna be delayed, I don't know how well it'll do. But day one, obviously, I think it'll do just fine. Nintendo wants information on Mario Kart Tour and a release by the end of the year. Well, I don't think we're gonna get more information tonight because Mario Kart Tour I think would outshine the game that's being targeted in the Direct. But yeah, well, I think we'll hear about Mario Kart Tour by the end of the year. You know, it'd be nice to see more than the logo, right? Of course, I say that about Metroid Prime 4 as well. And Bayonetta 3, which we really haven't seen much of anything but a logo because what we saw was just a pre-rendered CGI introduction. Nate, you took it too far. LMAO, that's just for the lulz. I ain't salty. I kind of like that order. Well, I know you're not overall salty in the moon, but you are also a person who has gotten mad at me and accused me of money-related things several times on Discord in the past. I don't know if it still happens because I don't really pay attention to that Discord server. But yeah. So like, it's easy for me to look at it and be like, yeah, maybe you're joking, but are you really joking? Because you have said stuff like this before and you weren't joking. Let's see here. Oh, I didn't know he gave Sub a gift card. That's great. Yeah, he gives it says it right at the bottom of all of his videos on he's got 3 sections on the bottom, and the one section he has on the bottom says all new subs, or not all new subs, obviously, but all new sponsors or members get a $5 eShop gift card. It's a really cool thing. I wish I could do it. I wish I could do something like that. I don't even care if people say I stole the idea from Obi-Wan. I don't care. It's giving money back to people showing some love to me. And it takes at least 2 months of them being subbed to even make the money for the cost of the card, and the goal is that they say subbed after that, or whatever, sub-sponsored after that. I don't know if they would. I don't know if it'd be worthwhile for me to even attempt to do that because I'd have to have money up front. I can imagine I do that in one stream, and all of a sudden we get 10 new subs. I'm like, I gotta have $50 right now to shell out all these eShop gift cards. But I think it's a really cool idea, and I hope that all the success in the world to that. Go with the Craig. So Square Enix is running full speed on their hamster wheel right now to make games for Switch. I think so. I think after Octopath Traveler, they're like, oh crap, we really underestimated this platform. We were going to treat it like 3DS. We should not be treating it like 3DS. I think that was their original plan. We're going to treat this like a new 3DS. Oh shit, we better be doing more than that. We're losing out on money if we don't. Let's see here. Something that will go broke. Patreon equals $5. Oh yeah. That would be a bit more sense because there's a smaller cut taken out of the Patreon. So like every new patron, well, it'd have to be every new $5 patron is you also get a $5 eShop gift card. That would be interesting especially because on Patreon now they have an option where you could charge up front for the first month. So I don't even have to wait. So technically, I could just use the money they just paid in to pay right back to them, and then I just hope they enjoy the Patreon enough and say subscribe. That's actually more realistic. That is something that I probably could do. Okay, I'm going to have to think about that. Maybe making a $5, adding a new reward to the $5 tier. No, I'd probably do the $5 tier. I was going to say add to the $10 tier, but no, probably the $5 tier. Interesting. You got me thinking there, I'm the Moon. Way to bring up Patreon. I'll have to think about that. That's a very interesting way to promote our Patreon. Because I fully believe in our Patreon, man. I want to see that Patreon grow. More than I want to see, as awesome as it is to see sponsors and subs grow, I love seeing the Patreon grow. Because the Patreon is not reliant on YouTube or anything. Patreon is completely separate. And that's a consistent revenue I can rely on almost every month. I know it goes up and down a little bit, but not nearly as much as like YouTube ads. Like 1 month, oh man, I might get like over $1,000 off of YouTube. The next month I get like 300. It fluctuates a lot. Even if your viewership and your subs are growing, it doesn't matter. The ad revenue still fluctuates so much. It's crazy. Who's the guy that gives the gift card? Obi-Wan. OBE1. Every new YouTube sponsor gives you basically You give him $5, he gives $5 right back to you. Technically, you're not giving him 5 because you're giving YouTube some money, but yeah, kind of cool. It's a really cool thing he does. I'm surprised more people don't do it, especially bigger channels that might have a higher success rate of keeping on the new subs. Maybe they don't do it because they're worried too many people would take advantage. It's not really taking advantage though, because you could just buy an eShop gift card yourself for $5. I don't know. Let me see here. You don't like mini directs about garbage? Then don't watch them. Yeah, their mini direct earlier this year, they announced like Mario Tennis and Dark Souls, ended up to me being like their biggest direct of the year because nothing else has stacked up to it, including E3. That's just me personally. I think that's a little funny. Let's see here. Do you like WWE figures? When I was younger, yes. I'm not really into the WWE anymore. Stealing the idea of giving away. It's not, I mean, it's a good idea. A good idea is a good idea. And I'll fully, like, if I ever do it, I'll fully admit, dude, this YouTuber Obi-Wan does this thing. I thought it was really, really cool. So why not do it too? But we'll see if I actually go through with it. I'm not sure if it will be. I don't know. Let me ask the chat. You guys are here watching right now. Would you guys be interested if I made the $5 tier on Patreon? For every new patron, I give you a $5 eShop gift card for you joining the $5 tier. And I don't just want to know, oh, would you do it? Because, yeah, it sounds cool. You're basically, oh, I plan to get a $5 eShop gift card anyways. Why not give it to your Patreon? But would it be something that you think would incentivize you to want to support us on Patreon? And then on top of that, would that also lead you to possibly consider continuing to support us on Patreon? Because the idea isn't just the idea is get you in the door by saying, look, you're going to get your money handed right back to you anyways. But the idea is hopefully, you know, you enjoy the early access to the podcast and wherever else, and you just want to support us, and then you end up staying on. Like, would that be an incentive that might get you to jump on and then potentially stay on Patreon? I'm just curious because I have no way of knowing until I just do things most of the time if something's gonna work or if it's a bad idea or not. Y'all ever stand up too fast and get transported to a whole other universe? It's never happened to me. You just want their holiday direct. What? It's not really a holiday direct. It's more like a commercial. Yeah, I saw your email. Well, the thing is, Mark, here's the thing. I kind of protect myself, right? Because Patreon, I could change a setting on Patreon so new patrons get charged right away for the first month. And what happens is, if they just leave after the first month, I'm not really out the money. Because I'll just use the money that they got charged to pay for the gift card. I mean, I'm out like 1% or 2% of the money or whatever it is. So yeah, I technically do lose like pennies, but it's still something that to get their foot in the door, it's a no risk situation or a very, very low risk situation. What I'm saying, Mark. So like if I do it and they end up not staying after the first month, and that just happens across the board, I know to stop doing it. But if they do stay on, I mean, it's kind of a no-risk situation for me. Or, as I said, I'm losing, a little bit of money. Obviously, it could screw me. Like, if I get, say I get 200 new patrons at $5, right? And I'm turning around, that starts to become a little bit more significant amount of money if a lot of those people don't stay on for the next month. Because that 2% adds up a lot when you start getting to that point. You're like, oh, now I'm going to be out like $40, $50 if this doesn't go right. But I don't think we're going to get an influx of 200 patrons. Let's be real. Let me see here. Thoughts on the Daemon X Machina surprise 2019 hit? I don't know if it'll be a hit. I until something proves otherwise, I think mech games are super niche. I don't think I've ever seen a mech game that has proven otherwise. So a game based around mechs, it might be a surprise, top echelon game. But in terms of being a hit, what do you consider to be a hit? Usually it's based on the number of sales. And I don't think it's going to sell much more than 1 million units. But yeah, Mark, I saw your email. I know. I'm going to get that up later today, actually. I guess I could talk to you guys about this right now. You guys can get a little sneak peek. I should say more correctly, Mark is running it. But we are going to... what was I going to say? We are going to be doing a fantasy football league for Nintendo Prime subscribers. Completely free and open to the public. There's going to be an eShop gift card for the winner of it. So you can make the playoffs, win it all, get an eShop gift card. I think we're having 2 leagues running. The drafts are next week. All the details are going to be up later today in a community post, so look out for that. If for some reason you don't seem to ever get notifications from my channel, follow us on Twitter at NintyPrime, NITYPRIME, because I will be tweeting out the community post as well. I'll also be throwing it up on our Discord, which is exclusive to our Patreon backers and our Twitch subs and our YouTube sponsors. So if you're one of those, you can also see it on Patreon. I'm going to throw it up, and it's going to explain what the league is, maybe what the rules are per se. I have to double check the email from Mark. Mark's the one that's going to be like commissioner of both the leagues. I'm going to be playing in both of them. I think Eric is also going to be playing in both of them. So it's a chance for you to go against me and Eric. Eric and I cannot win the prize. I can tell you that right now. So if we win the league, it would just be the second place person gets it. And if Eric and I somehow end up in the championship, then whoever wins the third place game will get the gift card. So, because I'm not gonna it doesn't make sense to do a community based fantasy football league and then have me win. I mean, I want to compete, and I want you guys competing against me. And you're darn right. I want that little trophy because we're doing it through Yahoo Sports. I think I want that little trophy by the name that says first place. But yeah, it's gonna be kind of cool. Mark says to Nate, it's like 4 cents. But if a ton of people do it, you could lose money. Also, your current bank account is just pennies. Well, it's a little more than pennies. Is it really a little more than pennies? I mean, if I wanted to go to McDonald's right now, I could afford some McDonald's right now. So I guess it's a little more than pennies. I just got a surprise payment from Amazon today. Amazon Associates today that I didn't know was coming. Now, it wasn't a ton of money, but there was a little bit of money. Which is good. Gets me to the weekend, I guess. But yeah, I mean, if a ton of people do it, I don't know that a ton of people would. I would only the big way I can limit it is I can just advertise it during live streams. We don't get 200 plus like let's say I did it right now. All 25 people right now were brand new ones and they came over. I could deal with that 25 people. You know, our live streams aren't like getting viewed by hundreds and hundreds. So I can keep it down. I wouldn't advertise it in a more broad video if it, until I had it was proven to be a successful venture for me. I want patrons to still back you. Yeah, obviously. The BitBlock's up in here. He's got a question for me. How's it going, Josh? So why do so many indie developers resort to pixel graphics? It isn't cheaper. It isn't more creative. So why do they constantly use them? Well, it is cheaper. I'll tell you why it's cheaper. A lot of how do I explain this? The engines that people are using to make these games. It's a lot easier to do physics and stuff like that in a pixelated 2D style world than it is in a fully 3D world. There's a reason that something like Ocarina of Time had a hell of a lot more developers on it than the OG Legend of Zelda. It takes more developers and more time to do a 3D game well. It doesn't take as much money or time to do a 2D team well. As an example, I've made, literally myself, little old me, alone in my basement, have made 2D games. And on top of that, you have to look at rendering sequences. Like, with your... I'll give you an example. This isn't exactly one-to-one. Games and what you do with, like, make-believe isn't one-to-one. But you know that, like, rendering out your make-believe videos, right? When you're doing fully animated all the time, 5-minute video or whatever, it makes your computer cripple and can take days and weeks. Now, imagine you're trying to do this real-time rendering for a video game. It's just a lot easier and less taxing on a computer to do that with sprites. So when you do it with sprites, you're actually also making it more able for more people with a computer to do it because you don't need as big of hardware to necessarily develop the game as well. So my computer at home, which is definitely not built for developing games, I can develop a game on it when it comes to that style of game. Whereas if I'm doing a full 3D modeled 3D world game, it would actually be harder. Yeah, no, that's why I said when he said rendering from a program for animation, that's why I said it's not really one-to-one. I was trying to frame it in a way that you would understand. It's not the rendering of animation is more intense, yes. But I was just talking about it in terms of, like, just from my experience, that running a 3D, creating 3D objects and having to run in real time on your computer for a game in a game engine is actually more intensive on your computer than it is doing it with sprites. So it was a bad correlation, but I was trying to do it in ways maybe you would understand a bit better in terms of rendering. Like if you were rendering a flat, pixel kind of thing, it's a lot easier to render. The same is kind of true with games. It's just easier. So like when you talk about how it isn't cheaper, it isn't more creative. It is a little bit cheaper because you don't need as beefy of a computer. You don't need as many developers. You don't need as many animations. That's a big thing as well. You know how many animations you need on like a 3D head? You don't even need blinking. Like blinking's a thing that happens with a 3D face that you don't need to do with pixel art. So like there's a lot of, and some companies do it. They add the blinking in a pixel art, but it is actually easier and it is actually cheaper in other ways. The assets themselves, no, like buying pre-made 3D assets and pre-made sprite assets, they're kind of sort of the same in terms of when you look at the overall market for making games. This is why you see a lot of really crappily thrown together Steam games with pre-made assets that they bought for $50 off a store. Yes, that part is cheap, and also those games suck. Most games made with pre-made assets suck. Let's just be clear about that. At least the ones that we hear about. I shouldn't say all of them. There's probably a passion project that doesn't suck. Anyways, Bitblock says, when making a game design concept art for your characters and worlds, pixel characters such world had to one point be normal artwork. Why not make them traditional 2D artwork rather than pixel style? Take DuckTales Remastered, for example. It's a 2D game, but they have hand-drawn art style for the characters. How would that cost more money than if we're just pixelated? I'll give you an example. It takes way less skill to make pixel art. And I shouldn't say that in general, but put it this way. For a hand-drawn style, you actually need skills at drawing. For pixel art, I can do pixel art of Mario on my board. I can draw blocks and make a Mario character. I cannot do very good hand-drawn stuff. So it takes a higher skill level to do that custom hand-drawn style than it does with the pixel art. And as I said, when you look at DuckTales Remastered, the animations in that, there's a lot more animated. Like the characters themselves are a lot more animated than they are in the OG DuckTales game. So, and again, that's also not really the greatest example in the world because the DuckTales game is not really made by some guy in his basement. I wouldn't even call that like an indie project because it's not really an indie project. So it's also a bad comparison in that light that it's actually made with an okay team that has a lot of experience. But when you're talking about like me, if I got my degree in game design or I don't have my degree in game design and I'm in my basement and I want to make a game, it's far easier for me to just make it with pixel art than it is to do with anything else. Both from not needing to upgrade my computer to the lack of artistic skill I might have and all that kind of stuff. This sounds like a good discussion/debate for us someday. Yeah, probably. I know someday we got to get together and, I don't know, podcast or standalone videos or what. I know sometimes you do those discussion videos with Rogers Base. And I obviously have my podcast. And I want to do some more discussion. Like, I do discussion videos, but it's always like just me like putting my thoughts out there on a topic and then asking the audience to chime in, versus like actual having someone in the room and discussing things outside of a podcast. Something I want to do more of too. But yeah, it would be good, like using your experience in animation and your knowledge on everything, and then my experience with the little bit I've done. I've done very little, with the little bit of game development I've done, and just bringing that together to discuss like why I think ultimately. Again, I think it is a more cost-related and skill-related thing. You could be a highly skilled video game programmer. Like you went to game design school, and you got a video game design degree, and you're awesome. You have amazing ideas, but you can't actually put that in an art form. on a screen. You can program the hell out of those ideas, but then you need an artist to actually put together all the art. And maybe you're not very good at animation, so now you need an animator to come in and animate that art. And it just becomes a lot bigger, heavier toll. Than I went out and bought some pixel animations and pixel art. The animation for running with pixel art's the same in almost every pixel game, so I don't really need to worry about that. People aren't going to chastise my run animation for looking the exact same as every other pixel game, and blah, 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 blah. There's a lot more you can get away with in that case as well, where it's like, oh, people aren't going to chastise you for having the same running animation, because they all have the same running animations, and blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of ins and outs. So I think overall it just is cheaper. It's easier. Let me tell you, it's a lot easier for me as a single, like one person. For a one-person development studio, it's a lot easier to use pixel art. If it's a team of people that you have like the best indie studios have a team, right? Like you have a couple programmers at least. You've got an art designer, at least one, if not two. You have at least one animator. Sometimes you even have a writer that's dealing with the story. And so I end up with a team of 5 or 6 people, and that can make up a pretty solid indie studio. But a lot of these indie games are made with like 1 or 2 people. And that's why I think a vast majority of them are the way they are. They aren't really made with a team. It's like myself and a buddy got together and we decided to make a game. And we might even have the same skill sets, which sucks. It makes the programming, let's say we're both really good at programming, so it makes the programming easier, but then we suck at art. So we're buying pre-made assets, or we're editing pre-made assets, like recoloring them in Photoshop or whatever. You know, it's a pain. It's a pain. That's why I don't make games anymore, because it's a pain. I was making some games on my own. It's a pain in the butt, and I'm not talking about stuff you make with RPG Maker, guys. So like I'm like actually going into C++ and actually making a game from the ground up using an engine like Unity. Unreal Engine 4 I've touched around with a bit, and man, is it hard to animate. It is way harder, at least in UE4 compared to when I was doing sprite work in Unity. In Unity, it was a lot easier to animate the sprite work because you only basically had to have, like, to open a mouth is just, you know, it's just an image with the mouth open and an image with the mouth closed, and you're just going back to back. So it looks like talking, right? It's just back to back. It's the same. It's just 2 images flashing back and forth, flashing back and forth. That's your animation for talking. When you're trying to animate a 3D element talking, you can't just, like, you can have like it go just up and down like this, but it looks so unnatural. It looks like Pac-Man. It looks like Pac-Man's head. It's just not good. There's a lot more elements to it, and it's just. I put Unreal Engine 4 down in a hurry when I started playing around with it. I'm like, you can make these really cool. Like whenever people talk about like all those Zelda remake projects in Unreal Engine 4, and like, man, everything looks so lifeless. I'm like, yeah, because the actual hard stuff is not stuff they're doing. They're not worried. Like, look how stiff Link looks. Look at it, because they're not actually going to animate this crap. You know how hard that is to do. The animation of that stuff is just as skillful as the programming. Sometimes more skillful in some cases. I would argue, like you, Josh, you're very good at animating things, and animation in general. Of course, you're like up in the clouds compared to, like, I'm probably down in a crater somewhere. So, all right, A Bug's Life or Ants? A Bug's Life's a better movie, but Ants is underrated. I always hate the debate between A Bug's Life and Ants because I do think A Bug's Life is a better overall movie. But Ants is very, very good, and I think because A Bug Life really is a better movie and overshadows it, a lot of people just think Ants is garbage and crap. My fiance is one of the things. She thought Ants was complete trash. Finally got her to watch it like last week. No, not last week. Sorry, like a month ago, and it felt like last week. Like a month ago, and she's like, oh, yeah, this isn't that bad. Because Ants is a pretty good movie. It's just A Bug's Life is better. Let's see here. Take Philip Muchin, for example. Well, we could talk about Philip again. Nate, you should make a Switch game and make it free for patrons. No. Don't have a Switch dev unit for starters, so it can't really, like, I can't really make a Switch game without a dev unit. I can't get a dev unit without a working prototype. And honestly, if I was going to make a Switch game for patrons, I would have to quit YouTube. I don't think you guys understand how hard it is to make a game. Like, it's a full-time job, more than that. I'd have to put in, like, 80-hour weeks. Well, not 80. Let's go 60-hour weeks. I'd probably have to put in 60-hour weeks for, like, the next year or two to even get you a Switch game on my own. you're asking me to quit everything in my life, make no money, and make a Switch game. It's not that easy, guys. Video game making is not that easy. I wish it was. I really wish it was. Especially since I refuse to give patrons a piece of junk that crashes every time they hit the start button. Or the plus button in this case. Does it cost thousands of dollars to get it checked by ESRB? I don't remember what I never had a game fully checked by ESRB, so I'm not sure. There is a fee. I mean, one that you release just to patrons, you wouldn't have to worry about. But if you do a public release, then you have to get the ESRB rating as well. Otherwise, no platform will take you on officially. And yeah, again, the dev unit, you have to have a working prototype to even get a dev unit. Do you know of a cheap video editing software I could find? I want to be able to put pictures in front of a video. Well, Movie Maker is your best bet. You're not going to get any cheaper than free. Like, if you just want to put pictures in front of a video, Movie Maker will work. I mean, literally, it doesn't get any cheaper than a program you already have. You know, I could tell you to go use, because I use Premiere. I could tell you to go use Premiere, but is it really cheap? I mean, $20 a month, it's cheap to get into, but that $20 a month adds up quick. I mean, you think about that. I pay $20 a month, 12 months a year. I mean, what is that? $240 I'm spending a year just on Premiere. Heck, I didn't even put that on my last tax return as a write-off. I should probably do that. I should probably do that this year. Actually, write off that $240 that I spend every year. Do you know? Okay, so I did that. Nate, like a 2-level Switch game. Even then, for it to run on your Switch, it would require that I have a dev unit. So I would need to make it, then get approved, then buy the dev unit. So then I can get it to actually run on a Switch. Then I'd have to tell the patrons how to hack their Switch to make this run on it, because it won't run natively because it's not released on the Switch. And I don't know, you know, and I'm not going to get it officially released on Switch, of course. Again, it's even a 2-level Switch game. Even like a 2D sprite side-scrolling or top-down or whatever Switch game that has like 2 rooms or 3 rooms in it or whatever. It still would take me a while. I'm not like an expert here, guys. Way out of practice, and I don't know. I've probably forgotten more programming language than I remember at this point. Because I never finished my degree. I was making it while I was working on my degree. Because it was going to be one of my finals. As I was going to submit that game. And what games have I made? I have a game that's kind of like the only one that I would argue is in a playable state still on some computer somewhere. It's probably on that dead laptop up there. I might be able to rip it off the hard drive with the recovery tool. I have a playable Nintendo-themed Candy Crush game. Not that you care about that, but that was like one of the first games I've ever made. Playable Candy Crush style Nintendo game. Bunch of ripped Nintendo sprites into it and stuff like that. Because again, I ain't drawn. That's probably the only thing I have that's currently playable. I have another big project. Me, Eric, Jason, and a couple other people working on. That would be Form an Indie Team. A big MMO that we were working on, but I don't think it's playable. We haven't worked on that in I mean, it's probably been 12 years since we last touched that. I don't even have a copy of it anymore. I think Jason has the master copy with everything. I could ask him, but I don't think. Last I remember, it was not. You couldn't run it. It wasn't in a runnable state. Like, you could force it to run through certain like programs we were using, but those programs are not like things that you guys would have. Like, we're talking like $100 programs, several $100 programs. You know, basically running in debug mode, etc. Like, you wouldn't be able to run that on your local stuff. So it sounds great to release what I got. I said that Candy Crush Nintendo game is a maybe. And that's assuming that my drive isn't completely destroyed. Because last time I tried to get anything off of that drive, I couldn't access it. And I don't know if I want to send it into a professional. Professional is going to charge you thousands and thousands of dollars to go into each individual. What happens is because it's an SSD, they'll have to go in and desolder it and then resolder those memory chips, while somehow keeping a little bit of power to it in between. onto a new board and then trying to access those chips. If the chips themselves are totally toast on the memory, if the issue's the board, fine, they can take the chips out. Either way, it's a multi-$1,000 thing just to get back a Candy Crush kind of game. And it wasn't like, it was barely play. Like, you could play, like, it was like one level playable. It wasn't like there was like a whole, going down a course and everything. Wow. I am going to get rid of that comment. That is inappropriate, especially for a day stream. We're going to remove that. Why don't you put the styrofoam on the wall you have on your shelf? Oh, you mean all this? The, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 pieces of acoustic foam I have? Well, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24? 24 total pieces I have. Why is all that not up? It was all up. It was all up on my walls and my ceiling before. You know why it's up there? Because it kept falling off. I don't know if it's the paint. I've tried, glue. I've tried the adhesive strips, like 3M tape. It just keeps falling. I still have some up, obviously, that hasn't fallen. Well, it's just a matter of time. More and more keep falling over time. The only thing that seems to work, I got this special type of tape that does work, but when I pull it off, let me show you guys what happens when I pull it off. Because I had to take it down for something. I don't know if you guys can see it on camera, but back here, behind this green screen, which is not really even attached to anything, God, it's really hard to see. Maybe I'll take a picture of it and show you guys on my phone. I'll show you what happens with this other stuff that I use. That works really, really well, but it destroys the room. Is there even more yucky spot I can look at? I guess we'll just need some more light. That picture might do. See how well this shows up on camera. Yeah. So you see like where the paint is ripped off there? That's what happens. Like, it not just rips off the paint. There are spots in my office that are covered up that looks like there's a hole in the wall because it ripped chunks of this drywall out. So I have stuff that'll work, but God, it's got to be up permanently. And I decided, since I want to expand my office, that I don't want to permanently put up my acoustic foam. And I need more of it, by the way. I need like, I'm at 24. I think I need like 200 pieces of it for what I want to do. And it's expensive. I'm trying to buy some over time. When I finally expand my office and my recording area, then I'll do a more permanent setup where, you know what, if I destroy the drywall, that's fine, because it'll be when I move out, and then I'll just re-drywall and repaint it before I leave. But I don't want to do that until I expand my office, and then I see where I really want my acoustic foam to be. Right now, the room is small enough, it's not a big deal. The biggest reason that I even had the acoustic foam up was the ceiling, because my bedroom's right above this, and when I'm doing live streams at night, my fiance can hear me through the ceiling. So I was trying to put the acoustic foam all on the ceiling. That was the original plan. The ceiling, make my whole ceiling acoustic foam so it can reduce or even possibly eliminate the sound going up. Because it would hit the acoustic foam and it would either absorb it or bounce it back at me. But haven't really... I don't have enough. I don't have enough acoustic foam to do it. And that's part of the problem. I do have some up. I got some up over here because, I'm often talking this direction. And I do still have some on my ceiling, but I need a lot more. I need a lot more, man. I think I spent like $50 on 24 acoustic foams or whatever. Ugh. It should just be a simple overlay Movie Maker. It's been a while since I've used Movie Maker, but I know you can like stack layers on Movie Maker. It's not perfect. It's not as easy. Like, every time I keep thinking of what you're trying to do, it's like, oh yeah, this is like one click in Premiere, but it's Premiere, which is expensive. What's your most hype game of 2019 we know so far? Right now, it's Resident Evil 2 for me. Probably Starlink Battle for Atlas. Matthew Campbell. Hey Nate, why did you start the QA so early today? I can't go to sleep with your soothing voice later on. Our Q&A on Wednesdays usually starts at noon. I actually started it late. Well, actually, I should say 2 o'clock. It usually starts at 2. It will be at noon once the school year starts. But for now, it's at 2 o'clock. But yeah, I actually started the stream at 3, so I did it late. I'm late. This Q&A is happening late, not early. I don't do them at night anymore. How old am I? How old do you think I am, Nards? Jonathan, what kind of question is that? Have you ever had sex? And if so, rate your... I have children, and they're not adopted. Like, have I ever had sex? Let me think. How many kids do I have? So it's at least happened a few times. No, I'm not 42. Kind of sad that was your first guess, though. Means I must look like shit. So, yes. As for if I've ever had it, obviously, yes. Rate my pleasure from it, depends. There are some times that you would say it's a 15 on a scale of 1 to 10. There are times you'd say it's a 10. There are times you would say it's a 5, and there have been times where it was totally a 1. So, I mean, I'm not going to go through every incident in my life to tell you what's what, but yeah, like, it can be really awesome, and it can really suck. 12. No one's gotten it right. Yep, there you go. Someone got it right. RE4We 2018 got it right at 32. I've said my age before, so something like a... Mark, you didn't know my age? I've said it in live stream before. 32. I'm 32 years old, guys. Come on. I've said this many times. I mean, I can argue it's okay to think 31 because I was 31 last year while I was doing YouTube. And I was 31 before July of this year. See, most of this year I was 31 as well. Roxel insulation could be a cheaper solution to limit noise transition upstairs. What is Roxel? I've heard of that before. Hold on. I think there was a reason I didn't do it. I know it's cheap. You can get it at like Lowe's. Yeah, stone wool insulation. Hold on. Roxel insulation. Let's look at what it says at Home Depot. We don't even have a Home Depot around here anymore. Closed. Okay. It's kind of like a mat. Yeah. What I'm reading here, at least the stuff I'm seeing at Home Depot, it looks like it's for flooring. Let me see. And you can't go to the Rockwool website because that's for big cities and massive orders. Stone wool. Here we go. I know about the fire resistance. I think the last time I was looking at this is when I was thinking about having a closet that I put a storage server in, and then I'd want that insulated with fireproof insulation in case something does start on fire in there. It doesn't take out the rest of my house. But I don't know. I'd have to do some more research on that. Who is 32 or 34? 2-year gap. Come on, Mark. Nothing wrong with being 40-plus-year-old gamer. We started pre-crash. No, I mean, no, there's nothing wrong with being 40-plus years old. I'm just saying that, like, when you're not, and someone guesses you're, like, 10 years older than you really are, it's like, really, do I look 42? I don't want to look like, excuse me, I'd rather be 42 and people think I'm 30 than be 30 and someone think I'm 42, right? You never want to look old, like significantly older than you really are. I don't think anyone ever wants to. Was 33 out of the question? Apparently. Kids. Don't have kids until you're financially stable. Just advice. Kids. Oh, yeah. Like, if you're thinking about having the old SEX, I suggest not doing... Well, definitely don't do it during high school. Definitely not worth the risk when you're literally a kid that can't even financially support yourself in most cases. But, yeah, obviously wait till you're more financially stable. Like, even more stable than I am. I mean, I haven't been, paycheck to paycheck the entire time I've had kids. I've had other jobs and other things, but it's one of those things where, especially because I was the only one, for a long time here, I was the only person working. That was the tough part with us having kids, is that I was the one trying to support a family of 5, basically on my own for the past 3 years, because my youngest turns 3 years old tomorrow. So trying to support him on my own for 3 years, a full family of 5, 2 adults, 3 kids is rough. You need to make a pretty chunk of change for that. But I pulled it off. I did it somehow, one way or another. We made it happen. So I'm not saying if you're just gonna when we only had one kid, yeah, oh god, life was easy. Not just in terms of like raising a kid easy, but just in terms of financially, it was a lot easier with one kid than you add on a couple more, and then all of a sudden, like each kid is a massive additional financial cost. This doesn't even count the fact that I want to help support them going to college and stuff like that. So, future financial costs. They have college funds and everything that we put money into every year. What are your thoughts about Senran Kugara Reflections releasing on September 4th for the English eShop, and will I be playing it? Considering that I've never heard of it, the answer is probably no. Basically, insulation and pillow-like strips. Coworkers swear by it. I've seen what you're talking about. I've done, because I was looking at it for this closet. Because when I was going to do my office expansion, I was going to turn this closet, instead of being a storage closet, it was going to be basically a server room. And I was either going to have an actual server in there, or what I was planning to do even better, because there's actually an AC vent that goes into there. So I was going to keep it AC'd. And then in that room, to kind of keep some of the heat from coming into the rest, I was going to have an AC unit blowing into it, with a pipe going out this window up here, running across the ceiling, so all the extra heat and stuff goes outside, not back into my office. And then I was going to put not just the server in there, I was also going to take like my editing computers, put everything in there, and then have everything that I need hooked up, directly to it hooked up, then had everything come out and have hub links. I was going to have hub links, which would free up a bunch of cords in my office and recording area. But again, that's a huge investment. That wouldn't be part of the $5,000 renovation, I can tell you that. The renovation I want to do with $5,000 and expanding the office does not include any of that. That's more of a down the line if I was going to stay here permanently. Otherwise, I'd probably wait till I get an office building maybe for something that extreme. But things I've thought about. Because right now, I don't have enough storage. I need a storage server because I'm constantly, every new video I make, I'm deleting like 5 others off all the raw footage. And people go, why keep all the raw footage? You never know when you need to go back to the raw footage, especially when it comes to game footage. You never know when you need to come back to it for a YouTuber like me. Let me see here. Do your kids ever watch your live streams? Nope. In fact, none of my kids are allowed to even watch YouTube anymore. My oldest was allowed to watch YouTube for a while, and even on YouTube Kids, she was finding things I didn't want her to watch. I watched it, deemed the content inappropriate. The way she was acting was inappropriate, and so we banned her from YouTube and deleted it on all of her devices. Doesn't obviously mean she doesn't find a way to watch it with a friend or something, but no. She does not watch our live streams. Maybe someday when they're older. But no, they don't watch the streams. Not even right now. Happy early birthday. Not to me. You talking about my son? My youngest? He turns 3 years old tomorrow. We're not really doing anything to celebrate it, but he turns 3 years old. I might take him someplace. Because we have a birthday party this weekend for him, but maybe I'll take him. I don't know, ask him where he wants to go. Maybe he just wants to go to the park. Maybe I don't have to do anything super special, or maybe he wants to do something special. Maybe he wants to eat. He's 3. He knows what he likes to eat. Maybe he wants to go somewhere to eat instead. I can basically afford to either take him to because I have a little bit of money. I can either afford to take him to a restaurant or take him to like a play zone or something. Maybe he wants to go to like the Children's Museum in Eau Claire, which has a lot of stuff for him to play with. And it's his birthday, so we probably get a discount. Let me see. What is the worst thing about prison? Don't really have a lot of experience with that. That's probably better to ask someone who's got more experience with prison. I mean, I've been in jail, like for a night. Never been in prison, though. So that would be good to ask someone who's actually been in prison or works at a prison. Jonathan, just a suggestion. You should at least try out. It's only $10 and a great family-friendly game to take on the go. Obviously, do your research first. I mean, I'm sure it is. But I have to buy like 14 or 15 other physical Switch games before I really buy anything else. So I have a ways to go. It's going to be a while. The only new games entering my collection for sure are going to be Starlink, Pokemon, and Smash the rest of this year. Everything else is dependent on me regathering all of my physical games that I had to sell. No, I didn't shank anyone. Jeez. Even if I wanted to, I was in a cell by myself. It's weird. They let me have, was it a DS at the time? I can't remember. They let me keep my handheld video game machine. It was really weird. Like, what do you mean? Why did I get to play this in jail? Yeah, you're just a kid. Sure. So it really wasn't even that bad, to be honest. It was like being sent to my room. Have I played any games from Sega? I mean, what kind of question is that? Of course I played some games from Sega. My favorite games from Sega, though, are like the Total War series. Love the Total War series. That's probably my favorite thing Sega's ever done, is that series of games. Used to even run a general gaming website called Shogun Total Gaming, which was obviously named after Shogun Total War. How do I live stream a video on YouTube where it has me in the corner with a webcam and the gameplay on the main screen? If you're streaming gameplay from a video game console, then you need a capture card. Whether it's the one that's USB, like an Elgato, or I mean, it doesn't have to be Elgato. That's just a popular brand. Or if it's a card directly plugged into your computer. Anyways, you need a capture card first and foremost. If you're just doing a PC game, then you don't need anything other than your PC. I suggest having 2 monitors. You technically don't need 2 monitors, but having 2 monitors if you're going to do a PC game is useful, because then you can have a monitor with the program up you need to live stream, and then you got the other monitor with your game on it. So, yeah. And then I would suggest downloading either XSplit or OBS. Both are free. I happen to use Streamlabs OBS. I think it cost me like $6 a month to use it. Anyways, you can use one of those programs, either free or the really cheap version, and then in there you'll be able to add things like your video capture. You can either add specific programs, like when I was live streaming World of Warcraft last week on my other channel. I would just select WoW. That's the application. Then you can literally click and drag adjust. Then you bring in your webcam feed, and then you can click and drag adjust, and you can change what layers, so which one appears in front of the other. And Streamlabs OBS is really nice because it has a lot of things set up by default for you. So it's really easy to add things. You want to theme and skin your thing, like what you're seeing on my screen right now. Not so much with the chat, but with like that cup with the whenever we get money and money falls down into it, or like you see the Smash Bros theme on the recent donations, or all that stuff, or the Stream Boss, all of that is from a free template that I was able to download through Streamlabs OBS. I had to set it up myself, but like that, I didn't do any of the art, right? That was all included. So, yeah. And hopefully your computer is good enough to do that. Like if you're doing a PC game, the big thing about doing PC games is having enough available cores on your CPU to stream and also play games. This is why Ryzen is actually a really great choice these days for streamers, because you have plenty of cores to handle your game and extras to do live streaming. Like when you're running just a 4-core, depending on the game you're running, like it could be really hard to stream and run a game. That was what I was running into when I was running Madden. I tried streaming Madden 19, which I have on PC. Problem is Madden 19 uses like half of every one of my 4 cores. Even with the hyper-threading, it's using half of all the cores. And then when I stream, the stream's trying to it's fighting back and forth with Madden 19 for access. And ultimately, Madden 19 crashes because of it. But when I stream World of Warcraft, it doesn't need all those cores. So that's something to take in mind, too, if you're doing PC. If you're just doing, through a capture card, then your entire computer can be dedicated just to streaming. So then it's not a big deal. And you can get away with just one monitor. I mean, you can get away with just one monitor anyways, but it'll be a lesser experience for you. That's why I suggest at least 2. Or a really big, or you can have an ultra-wide. One ultra-wide monitor will get it done, too. You just split it in half. I actually wish instead of the 2 monitors that I actually had one big ultra-wide monitor. That would probably be the next thing I buy, is an ultra-wide monitor when it comes to monitor upgrades. I love the monitors I have. They're 2 4K Dells. I forget which one. They're really good, but I would like an ultra-wide. It'd be so convenient for video editing, being able to see much more of the timeline at once, and it would just be so nice. It would be a convenience I wish I had. Prison messes up your life. Like once you're in there, it's very difficult to leave, and it looks terrible in your record. So from there, yeah. I mean, you can get jobs coming out of prison. There's actually programs for it, but you can come out of prison and land on your feet. There are people who have. It's hard because of the mental toll it can take on you, and how much you could be, someone who is a perfectly fine human being, but you made this one mistake. You got your felony. You're thrown in prison, and then it could just go south from there, from what I've heard. and coming out the same person you were going in is very difficult to do sometimes, because you might not have been a bad person at times going in, but you just did like this one thing and you already regretted it, but it doesn't really matter because it's a felony. So there you go. It's tough. It's tough. There are places that'll still hire you, but it makes life a lot harder, that's for sure. Unless you happen to have a well-off family that can help support you, it makes life a lot harder. Even then, coming out of prison, you just like a completely different person. I know some people, like, I don't know from personal, I just know, I have some friends of mine that have been in prison that came out, and like, I think in general, like, the real them is still there under the surface. You can see it at times, but now like they have all these layers added to themselves that they needed to survive prison. Because it can get so rough in there, especially, and a lot of it's dependent on which prison you go to. Do you end up in a government one? Do you end up in a private one? Because a lot of people go to the private ones, and then those are usually just horse crap, because they're basically mercenaries or the guards. It's just terrible. Anyways, you probably already made a video about this, where your overall thoughts on Nintendo Switch Online and classic games. Not a fan of paying for online services to access the internet. As for the classic games, I'm totally fine with how they're handling the classic games in terms of adding new features and making it their new virtual console and then charging for that. That doesn't bother me. It bothers me that we don't know if they're going to add more than NES games. All they ever said is we're going to add more games. Okay, are we going to get SNES games someday? Are we going to get N64 games? Are we getting GameCube? Are we getting DS? Are we getting Game Boy? Like, what kind of classic games are we talking about? Or is it just going to be the NES library? And I don't know if people want to pay $20 a year just for the NES library. Maybe they do. I don't know if I would want to do that. But I'll end up getting it because I play online games with you guys. But I plan on live streaming Resident Evil 4 on Friday, glitch hunting, and I hope I can actually get my is that a PlayStation VR you're talking about? It's a lot different. I can't tell you how to stream a VR game. I think on the headset box that you have to connect, that goes between your PlayStation and your VR headset, I think there's an out that you could hook up to a capture card, if I remember right. It's been I've never actually streamed it myself, but I've seen some other people do it. There's a way to stream it that way, but again, requires a capture card still, and I don't even know. I can't even give you the details on it. There's a lot of, like, even in this live stream where I'm just on a camera, like, there's a lot of things that go into it that cause technical difficulties before I even go live. That's hard to explain until you run into them. Like, how come my audio isn't synced? Well, there could be multiple reasons your audio is not synced. Let's figure it out. Blah, 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 blah. How come Nintendo won't let you buy the games separately without buying the online subscription like Game Pass or PSN? You can buy the game separately. Go buy NES cards. I mean, Game Pass isn't the same thing, so I don't know what to tell you. PSN isn't the same thing, so I don't know what to tell you. They're different. Got to remember, like, yeah, Xbox 360 games are available on Game Pass, but they're not adding new features. The Nintendo version of this is literally adding new features to them. So they're not going to offer those features because they're not going to offer the games the way that you want, because those features require online connectivity, which requires an online service. They're pushing online. They're pushing a service for online. There's nothing we can do about it. That's just what they're going to do. You don't have to buy it, but they're going to do it anyways. Am I looking forward to Torna, the Golden County? Isn't it country? Maybe it's county. Not yet, because I need to beat the main. I've actually seen the ending of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It kind of spoiled myself. But I want to beat the main story myself in Xenoblade 2 before I play it. So I want to say I'm excited it exists. What I'm not excited is that it's been this long and I still haven't finished Xenoblade. And now my copy I sold, so now I got to get it back and blah, blah, blah. People complain of buying the same game on Wii U, 3DS, even though they chose to buy it. People always have something to complain about. Bought the pre-order of a 3-month sub-service from Amazon. There you go. I know, right? Isn't it crazy? You can pre-order a service that we don't even know everything we're pre-ordering, per se. All right, well, that's going to do it for the Q&A, I think. We've hit about 2 hours, which a little longer than I wanted. Usually we make these 90 minutes, but I figured I started late, so I'll give you a little bit of extra time. I got to go start thinking about dinner and some activities for my kids to wear them out before it's bedtime for them. And, you know, what is it, 5 o'clock? They go to bed around 7 because I'm trying to get them in the school thing. So, you know, a couple hours I got to wear them out here. Hopefully not wearing myself out because I got some video content and other stuff to make. Lots of news to get to, or I actually have a discussion video I'm working on. Can't wait to get that out the door. I guess the last question that I'll take here comes from Ari. Let me double check on Twitter or on Twitch. Nope, no new question over there. Okay, so the last question I'll take that is from Resident Evil 4 Wii 2018. Do you think we'll see Metroid Prime 4 gameplay before the end of the year? No. Don't think we're seeing it till sometime next year. I'd say E3, but it could also be the direct before E3. All right, folks, that's going to be it. Thank you for tuning in. I will catch you guys later. If you want to catch this live stream after the fact, you want to go back and see all the questions I answered, all that stuff, you need to become a member of patreon.com/Nintendo Prime for as little as $1 a month. This week's Q&A and next week's Q&A are actually, or last week's Q&A and this week's Q&A are actually going up exclusively on Patreon after the fact. I believe tomorrow. Maybe it'll be the end of today. Depends on when this one finishes running. But we'll put them in the same post for our patrons that are wondering, hey, where was last week's Q&A? Don't worry, I'm going to get it up. I know I got to get some other live streams up on Patreon as well. I've been a little slacking. I've been slacking on that forever, to be honest. But I wanted to be better about it. I'm going to start with the Q&As, make sure I get those up every week. Peace out. Wait, hold on. Antonio Barbosa. If it's an important question, I'll answer it before I hit end stream. What was the question? I'll give you 1 minute. That's 30 seconds for you to hear me say that you have a minute, then 30 seconds to actually get your question typed out. If it's not that important, I'm not going to answer it. Your question still might be the last. Staring at my timer. Hasn't turned to 5 yet. You got a little time. A little time, Antonio Barbosa. Antonio Barbosa. The clock is ticking. Doing the Reggie. Is that about ages? I mean, that's not a really important question. So I'm not going to answer it because I said it had to be an important question. Be sure to save that up, bottle it up, ask me again next week, or become a patron, patreon.com/Nintendo Prime. Then you can put it in our Q&A post for me to answer at the beginning of next week's stream. All right, peace out.